I've been using OpenClaw for a few months now, and for most of that time it felt like a slightly better chatbot that lived on my phone. It wasn't until I installed 5 free skills into OpenClaw that it suddenly started doing the things everyone talks about, like reading my emails, browsing the internet, pulling from my notes, and getting smarter on its own without me doing anything. The difference between OpenClaw with these skills and OpenClaw without them is so big that it feels like 2 completely different tools. So in this video I'm going to install all 5 of them on screen, show you exactly what each one does, and by the end, your OpenClaw will be able to do things that would have cost you hundreds of dollars a month in subscriptions. So here I'm on my OpenClaw dashboard, and at the bottom you have the chat where you talk to your agent, which is where you'll be spending most of your time. Everything in OpenClaw revolves around one concept, and it's called a skill. A skill is basically a set of instructions that teaches your agent how to do something new. Without skills, your agent can only chat with you based on what it already knows, which is useful but limited. When you install a skill, you're giving your agent a new ability, like being able to read your Gmail, search the internet, or give you a routine summary. And once a skill is installed, your agent can use it automatically whenever it's relevant. The best place to find skills is ClawHub, which is the official marketplace for OpenClaw, and it has over 13,000 community-built skills available right now. To install a skill, you just type it in the chat, and your agent pulls it down and sets it up. Now, not every skill on ClawHub is worth installing, and some are poorly made or even malicious. However, everything I'm showing you today has thousands of downloads, comes from verified publishers, and has been active on ClawHub for months, so you're safe to install any of these. The first skill I'm installing fixed a problem I didn't even realize I had until the first time I saw it work. The biggest problem with any AI agent is that it doesn't know anything about you. It has no idea what's in your notes, what came up in your last meeting, or what you wrote down 3 months ago that would actually answer the question you just asked it. So every time you want help with something that depends on your own documents, you have to manually copy and paste everything into the chat, which defeats the whole point of having an agent in the first place. QMD fixes that permanently. It's a skill that turns your personal files, your meeting transcripts, and your work documentation into something your agent can actually search through the same way you'd search Google, except everything stays local on your own computer. The underlying tool was built by Toby Luca, the CEO of Shopify, and the OpenClaw skill was built by Peter Steinberger, who's also the developer behind OpenClaw itself, which is why this skill is one of the most trusted search tools in the entire ecosystem right now. To install it, I'll type this command in the chat, and once it's installed, you point QMD at whichever folders you want it to index, like your notes folder, your meeting transcripts folder, or a folder of work documentation, and it goes through every file and builds a searchable memory out of them. From that point on, your agent can pull up anything it finds in those files whenever you ask it something relevant. So if I ask my agent something like, "What did we decide about the new pricing structure in last week's strategy meeting?" it searches through my meeting transcripts, finds the exact notes from that call, and gives me the answer with the specific quotes and context pulled straight from the file. The first time I saw this work, I realized I'd been using AI completely wrong up until that point, because I'd been treating it like a random chatbot when the real power comes from connecting it to everything I've already written down. The reason the skill works so well is that it uses 3 different search methods at the same time: keyword search for exact matches, semantic search for meaning-based matches, and a re-ranking step that picks the most relevant result out of everything it found. And because all of it runs locally, none of your personal notes or documents ever leave your computer, which matters if you're dealing with anything sensitive like client information, financial records, or private work files. The setup takes about 5 minutes, and once you've pointed it at your folders, you don't have to touch it again because it automatically picks up new files as you add them. If you've ever felt like your agent should just know what's in your notes without you having to copy paste every time, this is the skill that makes that happen. Now, your agent is connected to your personal knowledge, but it's still completely cut off from your email, your calendar, and your files, and the next skill opens up all of that in one install. If you use Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Sheets, or Docs for any part of your day, this skill connects all of them to your OpenClaw agent at once. It's called GOG, and it has over 14,000 downloads on ClawHub. Once it's installed, you can ask your agent to do things like go through my inbox and tell me if there's anything I need to respond to today. It handles all of it without you opening any of those apps. The feature I use the most is the document search assistant. Instead of digging through folders and trying to remember file names, I can just ask it something like, find that proposal document I was working on last Tuesday and summarize the main points. Within seconds, it pulls up the right file, gives me a quick breakdown of the important details, and saves me from wasting time searching through old documents. That alone probably saves me 20 minutes a day that I used to spend manually looking for files and rereading everything myself. I also tested it with Google Sheets, and I asked my agent to pull revenue numbers from one spreadsheet and add them to a tracking sheet I update monthly, and it did the whole thing without me opening either file. Setup requires you to authenticate with your Google account, which takes about 5 minutes, and after that, the connection runs automatically. If you run any part of your life through Google, this one skill alone makes the OpenClaw setup worth it. Now, my agent has access to my Google account, and it's getting smarter over time, but there's one thing it still can't do, and that's see anything happening on the internet right now. By default, your OpenClaw agent has 0 internet access. If you ask it about anything that happened after its training data, it either guesses or tells you it doesn't have that information, and both of those are useless. This skill connects your agent to the Brave Search API, which gives it the ability to search the web and pull in live results from across the the internet, and Brave gives you $5 in free search credits every single month, which covers way more searches than you'd expect because each one costs fractions of a cent. To set it up, you head to the Brave Search API page, sign up with your email, and select the free plan. It does ask for a credit card when you sign up, so you fill in your details, and once you're subscribed, you go into your account settings and set the usage limit to $5. That way it only ever uses the free credits Brave gives you, and the moment those run out, it stops making requests instead of charging your card, so you never pay anything. Once you have your API credentials, you paste them into the chat and tell OpenClaw to download the skill, and you're done. I tested it by asking my agent what was happening in AI this week, and within a few seconds, it pulled results from multiple sources and gave me a clean summary without me opening a browser. I also asked it to compare two specific tools I was evaluating for a project, and it searched, read through the top results, and gave me a side-by-side breakdown with links to the original sources. Before this skill, my agent was stuck in the past, and now it can answer anything I throw at it with up-to-date information. Now my agent can search the broader internet, but there's one problem I kept running into that had nothing to do with what my agent could access, and everything to do with how it writes. I use my agent to draft emails and social media posts all the time, and the one thing that kept bothering me was that everything it wrote sounded like AI wrote it, and anyone reading it could tell. The problem is specific because AI-generated text follows patterns that are so consistent that anyone who reads a lot of AI output can spot them instantly. Humanizer is a skill that detects 29 of these AI writing patterns using over 500 specific vocabulary terms and statistical analysis, and then either flags them for you or fixes them automatically. It has over 27,000 downloads on ClawHub, which makes it one of the most popular skills on the platform. Once it's installed, you can run any piece of text through it, and it gives you a score from 0 to 100, where higher means more AI sounding. I tested it by pasting in a blog post draft my agent wrote for me, and it came back with a score of 93 out of 100, which means it was very obviously AI generated. It flagged specific issues, like the fact that every paragraph opened with a transition word, the sentence lengths barely varied at all, and it was using words that almost never appear in natural human writing. Then I asked it to fix the flagged issues while keeping the actual message intact, and the revised version scored 18 out of 100, which is well within the range of human written text. The part that makes this skill different from just asking your agent to write more naturally is that it uses actual statistical analysis. It measures something called burstiness, which is how much your sentence lengths vary, because humans naturally write in bursts, some sentences short, some long, while AI tends to write everything at a uniform rhythm. It also tracks vocabulary diversity and phrase repetition, so it catches patterns that you'd never notice by reading the text yourself. You can even set it to always on mode, where your agent automatically applies the humanizer rules to everything it writes, so you never have to run it manually. If you use your agent to write anything that other people are going to read, this skill makes the output noticeably better. Now I have 4 skills running, and each one handles a different part of my workflow independently, but the last skill takes everything they're producing and combines it into something that makes my mornings feel completely different. Every morning, I used to spend the first 30 to 40 minutes of my day jumping between my email, my calendar, and my task manager trying to piece together what was urgent and what could wait. Mission Control turns all of that into a single morning briefing that my agent delivers before I've even opened my laptop. It pulls together my tasks, and if something changes during the day, like a meeting gets rescheduled or an urgent email comes in, I ask my agent for an updated briefing and it regenerates the whole thing in seconds. But the real value of Mission Control isn't what it does by itself. It's what it does when it has access to the other 4 skills. When Mission Control pulls my email summary from GOG, grabs the latest news from the Brave web search, and feeds any content it drafts through the humanizer before sending it to me, the morning briefing covers everything I care about and reads like a person wrote it. That stacking effect is what makes skills so much more valuable together than they are alone, because each one adds a layer that the others can pull from. I've been running this setup for about 3 weeks, and the difference in how I start my day is something I don't want to go back from. And every single skill I showed you today is free, with no subscriptions, no premium tiers, and no paywalls. You install them, configure them once, and they run for as long as you want. After installing these 5 skills, my OpenClaw went from a chatbot that could answer questions to an agent that manages my email, searches the internet, controls my browser, tracks my schedule, and gets smarter every day without me doing anything. If you want to see the full setup process for OpenClaw and how to get it running from scratch, I made a complete walkthrough that covers everything, which you can watch right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.